This is Kevin Martin, your UT admissions guy, joining you today to discuss the transfer admissions process, specifically the transfer resume. So this is the third video of a four-part series providing you application advice to maximize your transfer admissions chances. So the UT Austin requires you to submit an expanded resume. So for first-time freshmen, this paper copy resume is recommended but not required, whereas for transfer admissions, it is a required piece of information. And one reason for this is it's very hard to put all of your accomplishments into the Apply Texas application, especially for transfer students, which often have a much kind of wider range of experiences than 17 and 18-year-olds applying as first-time freshmen. So this is a required application item. There's no specific format you have to follow as long as the information is presented clearly, and there's no maximum length. And so anything that you can include, you probably should include, with one caveat. So UT recommends only going back the previous 5 years. So for example, if you are immediately graduated high school, you've done 1 year at community college, then maybe just discuss that 1 year at community college in the past few years from high school. And if you're a mid-career professional and you're applying in your late 20s or early 30s, then maybe just include your employment history. Those things from high school, for example, may not be as important. But again, there's no kind of hard and fast rules. And moreover, there's no typical transfer resume. So I mentioned that there's, in a previous video, that there's no such thing as like a typical transfer applicant, and therefore there's no typical transfer resume. So the range of transfer students is much wider than it is for first-time freshmen, who are overwhelmingly high school students who are graduating. Whereas transfer applicants could be mid-career professionals, veterans. They might have they might be kind of single parents, or maybe they're married, or they have a mortgage, right? So these are all different things that transfer students are bringing to the table. So you should use your transfer resume to highlight your strengths and experiences rather than checking off all those boxes. So sometimes applicants will think, oh, I don't have any volunteer experience, or I don't participate in any extracurricular activities. And it's like, well, yeah, of course you don't have any extracurricular activities. You're a full-time employed professional who's been in their field for 8 years, and you have a 3-year-old daughter. So it's not expected that you're going to have volunteering hours or extracurricular activities. So again, don't worry so much about filling out all those boxes on Apply Texas, but instead structure your resume to highlight all of those strengths, and especially how you'd be a great addition to UT Austin. So that brings me to my second point. Market how you separate yourself from the crowd, and talk about how you're going to add a valuable perspective to the classroom, to classroom discussions, and also to UT Austin's campus. So one reason why higher education professionals and universities, academic advisors love working with transfer students is they often have kind of a richer or a different set of experiences that they're bringing to the table, right? So again, I discussed how a lot of transfer students are not your typical 18 or 19-year-old who's going to college. And so you should use that resume to highlight your strengths and discuss what experiences you have in the past could influence the types of perspectives you're going to bring to campus. And so market yourself as a valuable addition to the University of Texas at Austin and your first choice major. Speaking of your first choice major, my next tip is to structure your resume in such a way that puts your most relevant experiences first. This is especially important if you're applying to STEM programs or things like computer science, is talk about, and don't necessarily have work experience, extracurricular activities, volunteering in this kind of typical resume format. Instead, it's okay to say the first heading could be experiences with computer science or programming skills, and then go into details about the different things that you've done, skills, experiences, competencies that you have that make a strong argument that you deserve a space in your first choice major. This also signals to your reviewer, instead of putting those skills at the very bottom, it signals to your reviewer, okay, yeah, this student does have pretty good grades in STEM courses, and yeah, it does seem that they have some relevant experiences and thoughtful reasons why they want to transfer. And so that resume should be a piece for furthering that argument. And college admissions is really an argument where you're trying to kind of put as many reasons on the table to persuade reviewers to score your application favorably. My final piece of advice is expand on your resume as much as possible. So sometimes, and I think this happens after students submit their application or after they receive their admissions decision, they'll say to me oh, I didn't tell reviewers about this. Do you think I should have told them? And oftentimes innocent is pretty important. So if you feel like something should be included, then go ahead and err on the side of caution and include that on your resume. You should quantify your accomplishments, meaning that if you're competing in a particular competition, and talk about how many people you're competing against and what place you were in. If these are kind of regional, state, national level competitions, and be sure to note that. You should clarify and expand upon any roles and responsibilities that you may have. If you're a veteran, the resume is also an opportunity for you to talk about all of the different things that you've experienced in the military, because your reviewer is highly unlikely to be a veteran themselves. And so in addition to those resumes, to those essays, the resume can also be a piece to discuss what your enlistment experience is like. So I hope you enjoyed these tips on the transfer resume. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can check out my book, Your Ticket to the 40 Acres, and my course, Getting into Texas Universities. If you want to talk about increasing your admissions chances to UT Austin, feel free to complete my questionnaire, and we can talk about what we can do to improve your application. Thanks, and I hope you have a great day.